Hey everyone, over the past couple of years, Motorola has become really well known for releasing good budget and mid-range phones with stock Android. However, competition recently has gotten pretty intense with Realme and Xiaomi releasing phones practically every month. So, is Motorola's latest G8 Plus worth a buy? I'm Angie for GSM Arena, and this is our Moto G8 Plus review. Our Moto G8 Plus has a deep cosmic blue color that looks quite nice when the light hits it. It's made of plastic on the back and has some level of splash resistance. Despite having elegant looks, it feels quite chunky and it's far from a one-handed device. It's not very heavy, but it does feel a bit unwieldy. At least there's a fast fingerprint reader in a comfortable position on the back, so getting into your phone is no issue. The bezels on the front aren't that small and remind me of ones that you'll find on the iPhone 11. The notch is smaller, but it's far from the smallest we've seen. The Moto G8 Plus has a 6.3-inch LCD display. It has a good brightness of 581 nits in auto mode and 477 nits in manual mode. LCDs are usually brighter, but at least the contrast was quite good. The screen is dimmer around the edges when displaying whites, and in general, color accuracy wasn't great. There was a strong shift to blue no matter what color mode we chose. As far as the audio is concerned, Motorola really did a great job. There is a stereo speaker setup with excellent loudness. There wasn't nearly enough bass even for a phone, but mids and highs were alright. The headphone jack performed really well too. Loudness was among the highest we've tested and stereo separation was great. The G8 Plus also supports the aptX codec if you're a fan of Bluetooth headphones. The chipset is good for day-to-day use, but it's not great for heavy-duty gaming, and the phone only has 4 gigs of RAM, so it gets no boost there either. Still, the Moto G8 Plus has stock Android 9.0 with a few Moto gestures like chop for the flashlight and twist for the camera. This means you're getting Android as Google intended with the added Moto navigation. Hopefully, once the update for Android 10 comes out, the phone will use gesture-based navigation so that its bulk is less obtrusive when you're using it with one hand. For now, you can use the one-button navigation, which isn't quite as good, but is much more comfy than the classic buttons or Android 9's pill navigation. Thanks to its 4000 mAh battery, the G8 Plus got 87 hours of endurance. This is good for its class, and its levels better than the G7 Plus, which had a measly 59 hours. The G8 Plus also supports 15-watt fast charging, and while it doesn't sound that bad, it only manages to get 36% of the battery in half an hour. The Moto G8 Plus has a 48-megapixel quad-pixel main sensor, a 5-megapixel depth sensor, and a 16-megapixel ultra-wide video camera. Yeah, it's video in particular because you can't actually use it for stills. Just like on the Moto 1 Action, here the ultra-wide is meant for shooting in portrait mode. This is presumably to provide a better grip in action-heavy scenes, almost like a GoPro. The main camera uses pixel binning to produce 12-megapixel images. There's not even an option to shoot in 48 megapixels on the G8 Plus, although considering how that usually works in other phones that use the same system, that's not much of a loss. In daylight, photos have narrow dynamic range and quite a bit of noise, but they capture plenty of detail. In low light, this limited dynamic range seems to be even more limiting, so highlights were very blown out and shadows were noisy despite being well exposed. So if you're shooting in darker environments, you should just use the night mode because you get significantly better highlight areas. Photos are generally softer, but the difference in exposure seems to be worth it. Portraits had excellent subject separation and natural background blur. They don't get HDR, however, so the phone struggled in harsh light. 4K video footage was nothing more than okay. More contrasty details were well defined, but the grass was rendered in a watercolor fashion. The dynamic range is average and colors are good, but slightly on the cool side. Full HD video was among the top end for the class as far as sharpness and detail were concerned, but dynamic range and colors are pretty much the same. The ultra-wide camera has warmer color reproduction than the main cam, but dynamic range isn't any better. It does have better stabilization than the main camera, and we didn't observe any microjitters here. It's decently detailed for its class, but it doesn't have us going wow. The Moto G8 Plus has a 25-megapixel selfie cam that takes 6-megapixel photos. Images look decent and have nice colors when there's a lot of light. Detail isn't great, and the dynamic range is pretty narrow despite the HDR. Selfie portraits have good subject separation, but here the dynamic range is even more narrow. So the Moto G8 Plus is a good phone, but it's not amazing. In fact, it's a little bit difficult to recommend despite the stock Android and the low price tag. I mean, if you're crazy about the audio quality and that stock Android, then yeah, you should get it. But if you want a better screen, expandable storage, and better stills from the camera, then I would go with the Redmi Note 8T. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button down below, subscribe with the bell icon, and I'll see you guys next time.